And the dairy milk bar was unbelievably expensive after finding out what I found out yesterday about the crash of cocoa. And so I found like there's a bunch of other chocolate that was much better priced. But I mean, I wanted a dairy milk bar, for crying out loud. Anyway, I digress. Get your chocolate if you need to do that for your Valentine's Day thing, which I think is a good bit of advice. An illegal is a mayor of a town in Kansas. Like, he's just a Mexican guy who was like, yeah, I'm going to. And the funny thing is, he was in the United States legally, but you can't stand as mayor if you're not actually a citizen. There's a difference there. There's a distinction. Anyway, I find that very interesting. We'll talk about that. Clean coal for the USA. Trump is surging coal, and that's an interesting thing to watch. All the climate change alarmists head explode. New reefer madness. There are a whole bunch of people who are talking about how bad marijuana is, and they're coming from a place of in my opinion, a lack of experience, or they don't know what they're talking about. They're comparing it to alcohol. They're saying, like, alcohol knows its place. There is a deadly dose of alcohol that you can take, and you can hit that without realizing it and kill yourself. There is no deadly dose of weed. You would just fall asleep. And people say, oh, well, people are schizophrenic, people are this, or people are that. I'm pretty sure that there isn't a conclusive study. So, and I mean, my gosh, I know people, I am people who have smoked marijuana for a long time, 10 years plus now. And I think my memory issues are the Wi-Fi. But other than that, no, I don't think that there's any negative impact from the weed, from my personal opinion. But all sorts of people are coming out and saying it is causing psychosis, it is causing this, it's causing that, and they're attacking the legality of it. And they're saying America has a weed problem. And I think that that's interesting because I think alcohol causes more problems, honestly. But anyway, regardless of all that, they're coming after the weed, which is interesting. United Front and CCP activities in Canada, they're going to approach the Alberta referendum like Brexit. So remember during Brexit and up until Brexit, and even again with Trump too, right up until Trump was actually elected, Hillary was 99% to win. You'd be crazy to support Trump. You idiot. Don't you see that Hillary's going to win? And you idiot, Brexit's never going to pass. And now they're undoing Brexit with other legislation. But they're going to approach the Alberta independence movement as the same way they approached Brexit. They're going to attack it. They're going to undermine the leaders. They're going to try and identify a leader. The Alberta movement is led by Rath or whoever, right? Jeffrey Rath. And then try and take that person down. And in doing so, they take down the movement. If they can attach the movement to a person and then take that person down, then the movement's as dead as the person's reputation. And so they're trying that with this Alberta independence, just like they did with Brexit. And it's very obvious when you see it, but it's going to be demoralizing for a lot of Albertans. And again, they're saying the UCP, the people who are in the UCP, 75% of them, or a very high percentage of them, are for Alberta independence, but that doesn't make up the whole province. That's not what the whole story is. The whole story is actually the provincial or the wanting to leave Canada as a minority position, and the rest of the people in the province are actually really interested in staying in Canada, and you guys are never going to win. It's just like Brexit. And they're going to tell you, they're going to shove it down your throat that you're in the minority, even though I think that is incorrect, and that the Alberta separation, Alberta independence is a very, very popular, very mainstream, and I think up to 75%. But I've had people push back and say, no, that's not true. There's a lot of immigrants in Calgary and immigrants in Edmonton, and because of that, it skews it, and they might be right. It might be closer to 50-50. So take it with a grain of salt. My feeling from my garage is that it's much more popular than it seems, and that's based on what I see people talking about, right? But the sentiment that I'm getting from people who live there is they say, no, it's not quite that popular. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyway, what else? They're going to, fleshing out the response to the school shooting. So the school shooting happened yesterday, basically in the evening, but nobody had really responded. They kind of all responded after my show. It was a thing that happened, but it wasn't something that had been widely kind of disseminated yet when I was doing my show yesterday. So we're going to start with the school shooting stuff. And at first they were trying to say this is a woman, a female. It's not a female. Everybody knew it wasn't a female. As soon as the details came out, people were aware that this was a male. They're saying this person transitioned at 12 years old. That's not possible. You can't change your sex. I'm sorry, you just can't do it, right? Just like I can't turn into a rhinoceros or a kangaroo, right? I'm not a kangaroo. I can't identify as a kangaroo, but for some reason, I can identify as a woman. And people will say, oh yes, that lovely Mark P. She's so divine, right? Like, no, I don't think so. And so it's very, very strange that everybody's falling all over themselves to cover up this mental illness that led to this horrific, tragic event. And we're going to look at everybody's response and the lack of ability for the Canadian government to actually zero in on what's happened and address it in a fulsome way is very, very frustrating, because they're not going to change their policies for anything. This trans thing is here and here to stay, and Europe is going to try and double down. So there's lots to get to, and I've already talked too long. Let's get to it. First, we've got Jack. He says, it's not happening in Canada. It sure is. Yes, it is. He says, does anyone remember last year around this time, the trans-identified male who stabbed 2 children in Grand Prairie, Alberta? And now we have a teen who is trans-identified who just shot and injured 35 people in BC, killed 10 and 25 injured. And we have a court case in Ontario. I think it's 10, maybe more now. And we have a court case in Ontario where a trans-identified person is suing the doctor for misgendering them. Canada, we have a problem. We have a massive problem. Here is the CBC, and they're saying yesterday a whole bunch of people got on, like me, got onto the internet and started talking about this, and they hadn't verified any information. And I mean, with my show, please do take everything with a grain of salt. But the verification, there actually was a whole bunch of verification. There's a whole bunch of information out there that the CBC refuses to look at. And so I reported on that information, and I encourage you to look further into it to firm up whatever's going on, your information about whatever's going on. But fundamentally, there was a lot out there already, and it didn't take much to confirm it. So why is the CBC pretending they don't know? And why are they not doing their basic job of verifying the information that is able to be verified? Cosmin does. So here's Cosmin responding to this, but first I'll play the clip.
Also, a note on our coverage of this story today. We know at CBC News that there are people online who are talking about the possible suspect and other details surrounding this case, but this information has not been confirmed to us by either sources or law enforcement, and we want to stick to confirmed details only as we continue to cover this story. And as we learn more, we will certainly bring all of the confirmed information to you. Also, a note.
All of the confirmed, approved state information that backs up the narrative. That's what we're going to tell you. Cosmin says, it's not a journalist's job to wait for verification. It's your job to verify information to the public for the public yourself. Since the pandemic, the establishment outlets are happy being government stenographers. They sit around and wait for the government to tell them what to say. Yes, as first responders, the RCMP are a primary source. They are not the only source. There are family members, eyewitnesses, and so on. It's a journalist's responsibility to find and talk to them. And so Cosmin does that. He says, if it weren't for X and Elon Musk enabling the spread of independent journalism, like what we do at Juno News, and we wouldn't know, and me, but again, I'm still censored on X, so there's still a huge censorship push, but I digress. We wouldn't know about Jesse Strang at all, who's the killer. When I reached out to Jesse Strang's immediate family last night, I genuinely didn't expect anyone to reply, let alone his uncle, confirming both his identity as the shooter and that he was a transgender. I reached out because that's what basic journalism demands. Verification through primary sources. That used to be the standard practice. It was the only thing that I could do while the police refused to verify basic details about the killer's identity. Now, nearly 24 hours after this horrific attack, establishment media outlets are still pretending that they don't know what everyone else and their grandma already does. To their discredit, they refuse to report the killer's identity because it complicates their preferred narrative around the trans movement. Instead of informing the public, they're protecting a shooter's preferred sensibilities in service of an ideology. Legacy media has chosen activism over responsibility. They would rather people live in a fiction than force an uncomfortable conversation or admit inconvenient truths. Yep. And here's Carney, and it's 1 minute and 49 seconds, so almost 2 minutes long. He has taken acting classes from Justin Trudeau. And so here he is acting sad about this, but he's not going to do, you know what he's going to do? He's going to take away people's guns. That's all he's going to do about this. He's not going to do anything to address the fact that SSRIs twisted this kid's mind into a situation where he thought he was a girl and that he needed to kill his family and then kids at the high school. The SSRIs, the drugs, the doctors, the interventions, that's the problem here. And also, kids' behavior is a mirror into their family life. It's a mirror to their parents' behavior. Okay? So when kids act out like that, and I mean, I'm not discounting the SSRIs. I'm sure his parents had the best of intentions, but they failed miserably because look at what happened, right? And Carney's crying here, and he's not going to do a damn thing. I don't believe this act, right? They might as well have had Justin Trudeau out here.
It's obviously a very difficult day for the nation. This morning, parents, grandparents, sisters, brothers, in Tumbler Ridge will wake up without someone they love. The nation mourns with you. Canada stands by you. I want to thank and pass on a number of world leaders who've reached out directly to me in solidarity and compassion. France, United Kingdom, His Majesty himself, Norway, Finland, India, United Arab Emirates, many others. The world is with you.
Name dropping countries and the King of England is a weird way to, and I know he says the world is with you, but what utter nonsense. Absolute empty words that do nothing for anybody. They don't address or identify the problem. They don't do anything to move things forward. It's just, yeah, we're real sad and the world's sad. And did you know I talked to the King of England? He's sad too. So
I have spoken to Premier Eby. Minister of Public Safety has been engaged, as have many Canadian officials over the evening. Minister of Public Safety is en route to British Columbia. He and the Premier will be visiting the community. All assistance, obviously, will be offered. We thank the first responders, the teachers, the staff, the residents, for everything that they've done in this terrible situation.
That's it. I'm done listening. So, weak. I think it's a weak response, and they're pretending that it's a great response. Here's this guy, and he's got some basic questions that need to be asked and answered, and it's two and a half minutes, so apologies, but here we go.
A bit in history. And you know, we can't agree on much these days, but we can all agree that these need to stop. And therefore, it's time to ask some questions. The suspect is Jesse Strang, and now it's evident that he was transgender. So my questions are the following. Why does everyone in society know at this point that the shooter's transgender, yet the media and law enforcement are hesitating to acknowledge this? Why does this group of people now account for the most mass shooters per capita? Why are government and law enforcement not engaging in a conversation around the correlation between trans people and mass shooters? Why are government and law enforcement not engaging in a conversation around the correlation between the use of psychiatric pharmacological drugs like SSRIs and mass shooters? Why do we automatically blame these tragedies on guns, and we're going to do that in Canada, and then use them to enforce stricter gun laws like we're going to do in Canada, when guns have been around for all of modern history, yet school shootings have only been happening in recent history? Why are governments not open to and engaging in conversation around trans ideology, particularly during childhood, being a mental illness? Why do we call body dysmorphia a mental illness and tell our kids the objective truth about their bodies, but we don't call gender dysphoria a mental illness and tell kids the objective truth about their bodies? Why are we not only so quick to celebrate kids changing their genders and even supporting irreversible medical interventions in that process, and yet there is zero conversation and questions being allowed to be asked about the long-term side effects and how this could be correlated with mental health issues? And I got more, but I'll just pause there. Just some questions that I think we all should be asking. I don't hate trans kids or trans people. I love all people. I just want the truth, as always, and I want to help every single human thrive. And this ain't it.
We'll leave it there. To put a little bit more meat on the I love everybody and, you know, trans kids and everybody else too. We should be honest with people and say, listen, if you want to dress up as a woman after you're 18 years old, tie it on, man. Have a good time. After you've gone through puberty and after you've done high school and the whole shebang, 18 years old, you're an adult. You can do whatever you want. You want to dress up like a woman? Fine. But we're not going to cut off your penis. We're not going to, just like we're not going to cut off your leg because you really, really, really want to be disabled, right? Like that's not going to happen. We're not going to do that. That's damaging. We're not going to do that. But you want to put on a dress? Fine, Miss Doubtfire. Do it up, right? If you want to. But you're not going into the women's washroom and you're not going into the women's change room and you're not going into the women's change room at the gym. That's not happening. You're not a woman. You're a man dressing up like a woman, like we all understand. That is compassionate. That's being honest. People changing genders is not something we can do. Okay? Like that would be the same as saying, listen, I'm going to cut off your hand and then we're going to put a robot hand on, and it's going to be really cool. It's going to do way more things than your hand can do. And then they cut off your hand, and then they put on a hook. And you're like, what happened to the robot hand? I thought it was going to be able to do a bunch of stuff that my hand couldn't do. And they're like, yeah, well, you can like hit things with the hook, and like you can stick things in, like stick the hook into things. That's a bunch of things that your hand can't do. And you're like, well, hold on, take this hook off. I want to regrow my hand, which they told you could happen. And they're like, oh, you're anti-hook now? Like you don't like hooks? What's your problem? Yeah, you know, like, and then they come up with a mean word for you or something like that. And all of a sudden you realize that they lied to you, and they're lying to these people. This is not something you do to somebody you love. You don't say, if we cut off your genitals, you're not going to become a eunuch, you're going to become a woman. That's a lie. If we cut off your breasts, it's going to be just fine. You can grow them back, or we can just put them back. That's a lie too. There's complications with breast enlargements and things like that. We don't do that. You shouldn't do that to people that you love. You shouldn't do that to people that you respect. You shouldn't do that to anybody. You shouldn't do that to anybody. And we do that to kids, and we're allowing our society to do that to kids. It's gaslighting. It's unbelievable. It's not love. It's anything but love. I love trans people. Then don't effing well lie to them. Tell them the truth. You can't change genders. If you cut off your penis, that's it, bud. You don't grow it back, and it's not turning. Have you ever seen Game of Thrones? Varys is a man. Lance says a trans shooter murdered 6 innocent lives at a school in Nashville. The manifesto was hidden for 17 months. A trans shooter murders 6 innocent lives at a school in Canada. Police are afraid of misgendering the suspect. Justifying a mental illness is why we have trans terrorism. Yep. This show, I'm expecting lots and lots of censorship on this show just for the title alone, but we're going deep into this because F it. We can't lie to these people. We can't allow our government to lie to these people. It's insane. It's insane. In Guelph high schools, on CanadaPoly.com on the news tab, you can see it. They have bathrooms that are open to girls or gender variant. Anybody who wants to come in here can just come on in here, especially if you're a mentally ill boy. Why would a school do this? And then say, oh no, let's not have school shootings anymore. You're encouraging it. Look at this guy. Watch his eyes when he says gun person. Watch his eyes. Does this look like this person isn't under duress to you? Because it looks like he's under duress to me. Like he looks over and says, is that okay, boss? Like, what else do you want me to say?
That includes the deceased gun person.
Okay. And then separately, do you...
Hold on, we're going to do it again.
Deceased gun person.
Okay.
He looks over right away like, oh my gosh, is this okay, boss? I don't know. Like he's worried he's going to get tasered right now.
And then separately, do you know the gun person's relationship to the...
That includes the...
I love how the press immediately come on board. Do you know if the gun person's family is... Whatever. Holy smoke. Right away. No question. Dave Eby, same thing. Gun person, that's the term Eby used to describe the shooter. So somebody sanitized this and everybody's running with it. Gun person. Gun person is now a legitimate thing. Is the shooter in the video attached to the tweet, not as gun person. Okay, fair enough. This guy says gun person. And so here is Colin. He says a human male cannot transition to female any more than he can transition to a squirrel or kangaroo. We need to stop playing these ideological word games and get back to reality. Yes, please. So here's the police talking about this Rebel News clip.
We're not hiding it. In fact, you're the first media to ask the question. I will say this. We identified the suspect as they chose to be identified in public and in social media. I can say that Jesse was born.
Mass murderers need respect, everyone. So we'll respect their wishes after their death because, mass murderers deserve that much. Are you kidding me right now? And then he goes on to try and claim, oh yeah, this is Jesse's story. I don't give a shit. This happened because of lunatics allowing people to pump this kid full of drugs and tell him he's a girl. Holy smokeronis. And probably other traumas that nobody has any idea about, but we shouldn't be glossing over this, right? And he's trying to sell this as a viable option. And, oh yeah, well, this one fell through the cracks, but all the other ones are going to be just fine. Give me a break.
And in social media, I can say that Jesse was born as a biological male who approximately, the information that I have, approximately 6 years ago began to transition to female and identified as female, both socially and we're not.
You can't. You can identify as female, I guess, if you want to. You can't transition. It's not going to happen. It's not real. It's not factual, right? It's like, I'm going to grow back my hand because I really miss it. The robot hand was just subpar. I can't wipe my bum with it at all. Andy No says it's too hooky. I don't know. Andy No says, Canadian Police Deputy Commissioner Dwayne McDonald said they referred to the trans mass killer of children as a female because that's how he identified. In Canada, wokeness is institutionalized as state religion, and it might be illegal to be transphobic, whatever that is. What Do I Know says, look at the propaganda, watch a false flag operation at work, folks. So EB may not have said gun person, but everybody and their dog is reporting female. All of them. Canada's school shooting, 9 killed by female in a dress in Tumbler Ridge. Teen dead after woman opens fire in high school in Canada. Female identified as suspect in worst Canadian or Canada school shooting in decades ever. 10 dead, including female suspect. 10 dead, including female suspect, right? It's all false. It's all meant to push a narrative. Women don't generally do that, but it's the trans ideology that's being pushed. I want to finish this, so we're going to go a little long on the stream, but I have to say bye to the stream soon. I wanted to get into free speech as well. We're going to definitely talk about the first 2 free speech things. The EU Parliament is leaning into this. Rosin says, the European Parliament is about to debate and vote on this, emphasis on the importance of the full recognition of trans women as women, noting that their inclusion is essential for the effectiveness of any gender equality and anti-violence policies. Anti-violence policies? Call for recognition of equal access for trans women to protection and support services. Nope. So they're going to try and do this, what has happened in Canada as well. And that's bad because it's violent and it creates more violent people. Kean says the Liberals will want to take away your guns for this. I propose they take away childhood hormone injections instead. Yeah, hormones can drive you crazy, man. Maxime Bernier is weighing in on this. He says the horrific shooting in Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia is a real tragedy. 9 innocent lives were lost, including those of children, and 25 others were injured in one of the deadliest attacks in our history. But let's speak the truth that the establishment media refuses to acknowledge, that the shooter was a trans-identified male, falsely described as female. He was lost in a delusion fueled by a radical ideology that contradicts basic biological realities. How many more must die before we end this toxic ideology? This is what Carney should have said. Trans ideology isn't liberation, it's a path to psychosis, and affirming it prevents real help from reaching those who need it most. Looking at the pattern unfolding across the West, Aberdeen, Club Q, Highlands Ranch, the Catholic school, Covenant school, now Tumbler Ridge, this is an epidemic of trans-identified violence, and it won't stop until we change course. Liberals, fake conservatives, and every member of parliament have voted unanimously for Bill C-4 in 2021, which criminalizes parents and therapists who try to help minors with gender dysphoria accept who they are. It's illegal to treat children for a mental disorder, but it's illegal to encourage them to undergo gender-affirming therapy and mutilate their body with harmful drugs or surgeries. We've let a cult take over our society, where even police cannot call a man a man. Our children are paying the ultimate price for this cowardice. Our position on transgender ideology is clear and unwavering. We must modify the criminal code to outlaw the use of puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and any form of bodily mutilation on minors with the goal of transitioning to another sex. Moreover, any person encouraging minors to transition should be held criminally responsible for attempting to cause harm. We must also remove the ban imposed by C-4 on helping minors who suffer from gender dysphoria accept their bodies. If a child expresses confusion about their gender, we need to show real compassion and tell them that they are perfect as they are. No need to change names, bodies, or lives to be loved. Affirming delusions is neglect, not care. My thoughts are for the victims, their families, and the Tumbler Ridge community. May this senseless tragedy spark a return to the common sense. Let's make Canada safe again by facing the truth. Yes, truth is fundamentally much better than lying to people about how right they are with their mental illness, right? Here is Drea Humphreys. She says, enough, it's time to end the charade. You cannot become the opposite sex. Saying that isn't hateful, it's the truth. If you know this but won't dare say it out loud, you allow the narrative that it is hate to stick. Make the truth great again. The truth will set us free. Here is this guy, and just as kind of another addendum to this whole ideology, it encourages pedophiles. It encourages pedophilia, and it hides them. And what do I mean? Well, here, Josh says, a WEF activist detained on a shocking array of child sex charges. Sean Gravels, the president of the LGBTQ plus organization North Peace Pride Society in Canada and a World Economic Forum activist, was arrested on multiple allegations of child rape. Sean was a well-known MAP advocate, which is, oh my gosh, it's the other word for pedophile. And was reportedly arrested on several counts of rape. So this kind of ideology does harm, and it doesn't protect anybody, and they want that harm to continue as much as possible. We're going to talk about free speech really quick because I think it's important for people to understand just how corrupt everything really is. It is coming down from the government. It is top down. The platforms are complying with government orders, and the governments are just saying, well, it's the platform's policies. We can't control the platforms. That's not up to us. But the government is pressuring the platforms, and the U.S. has the proof. So Sayer says, breaking, the U.S. State Department just filed a sworn record in federal court calling the UK-based Center for Countering Digital Hate and its CEO, Imran Ahmed, a key collaborator with the Biden administration on weaponizing the national security bureaucracy to censor U.S. citizens. Not our words, that's the government's. Certified under penalty of perjury, signed by Secretary Rubio personally. Here's what this means for every American. For 4 years, they told us nobody coordinated anything. The government was just sharing views. The platforms were just enforcing policies. CCHD was just publishing reports. 3 weeks ago, CCDH, not HD, told a Florida court that it never communicated with the White House. 21 days later, the State Department called its CEO a key collaborator. Both are now in the federal record. Only one can be true. See it for yourself, what they told the court versus what the government found. CCDH's own leaked internal documents listed their priorities: kill Musk's Twitter, trigger EU and UK regulatory action. These aren't the words of a watchdog. They're objectives of a foreign organization running what its own staff called black ops against Americans. And the State Department confirmed they succeeded. Read these ones, and they're originally reporting on the CCDH's leaked memos and election interference. Their targets included RFK Jr., now the Secretary of Health and Human Services. CCDH ran black ops to deplatform him. They lobbied Google to demonetize American media. They pressured every major platform to silence the people in his orbit during the exact period he was building a political movement. That's not content moderation. That's election interference by a foreign NGO. Remember Murphy versus Missouri? The Supreme Court said those plaintiffs couldn't prove the specific chain from government to platform to their injuries. Our case, Finn versus Global, was built to fix that. Our names were on the list. The government cited the list. The platforms acted on the list. Now the State's Department's own sworn records confirm the chain. This is the case Murphy couldn't be. CCDH CEO was accused of profiting from causing death. He also encouraged comparisons of the disinformation dozen to sexual predators, mass murderers, and criminal network under parliamentary privilege. He never retracted it, never substantiated it, never corrected it. Instead, he repeated it in a second federal court filing while telling a different court it was just publication of reports. The State Department says he successfully led efforts to lobby and pressure U.S. companies to restrict speech. That's not publishing. That's an operation. Yep. And so they're running it, and we are the victims. We are 6 people in a volunteer legal team against Google, Meta, CCDH, and the federal government. If we win, the precedent protects every American from government-coordinated censorship. If we lose, the blueprint survives for the next crisis and the next inconvenient voices. So they're going to try and make them lose. Big time. The Reclaimer says, this is for minding Ottawa. Oh, I've got to say goodbye to the stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want the whole show, head over to CanadaPoly.com. It's just as the rest of the show is just as fun. In fact, maybe even more fun. No, the really fun part was the shooter part. But there's just as much interesting stuff in the